Well, this is about as much, hold on. I got technical instructions earlier. Hope that doesn't, there we go. I knew this would be as much fun as riding a horse in the Deutschenfest parade, so I couldn't pass it up. So thank you, Chantel. I would like to welcome our guests today, our volunteers, especially business partners, and friends of the city of Pflugerville to this State of the City message. It's been a long time coming, and through the collaborative efforts of the Greater Pflugerville Chamber of Commerce, led by Chantel Mays, and the City of Pflugerville, led by our new city manager, Serena Breland, I'm very pleased to bring you this program. I had a young woman ask me if I was nervous, and I said, not really. I said, I'm treating this like a wedding. For most of you who don't know, I'm also a wedding officiant, so I'm used to performing before a large group of guests, so I have my wedding script right here. So, as Chantel said, I am a graduate of the University of Texas, and thank you, Rudy. And for most of you, and I know some of you have heard this message time and time again, I am a native of Pflugerville. I did grow up here in this fine community of 272 people back in the 50s. And I am a third generation Pflugervillian. I have a fourth generation daughter who is a firefighter with ESD 2. So thank you, Ron. So I have a rich legacy in this community and heritage. My grandparents were immigrants from Mexico. My grandfather worked for and retired on the MKT line that ran right through Pflugerville. And I always say it was light rail before light rail was in. Because we always used to ride the train home from Austin when we go to town, because you really had to go to town to get anything done. I do bring experience from both the public and private sector, and very proud of that, in that you really have to have some foundation in terms of understanding your community. As an example, I was a charter member, going back to my younger years, of the North Rural Travis County Community Center, which today is the Travis County Community Services Center over on Foothill Farms. And so that took years and years. At one point I was the assistant director for Travis County Human Services, and actually was responsible for the neighborhood center here in Pflugerville, in Oak Hill, Jonestown, and Maynard. So I've had some engagement with small communities, growing communities, and so I bring a lot of value to this community as a resident. But first and foremost, what I'd like to do, because this was a joint program with our commission and board volunteers, I would like to recognize, hold on, somebody else is doing it. I would like to recognize the board and commission volunteers that were able to make it today. And the first group I'd like to recognize is our city council. So I know there's several members here. Gentlemen, if you would please stand. Councilman Mateo, Councilman Weiss, Mayor Pro Tem Pena, Councilman McDonald. I don't know if Councilman Marsh or Councilman Heath are here. If you are, okay, thank you very much. And when we talk about volunteers, we truly are all volunteers, believe me. The members that are present here tonight, or today, I'm sorry, We have board members and commission board members from the Animal Welfare Services Advisory Committee, Board of Adjustment. I'm going to have all of you stand up in a minute. Capital Improvement Advisory, the Deutsche Fest Committee, Finance and Budget, the Friends of the Animal Welfare Services, Friends of the Pflugerville Public Library, Heritage House Museum, and I saw several ladies from that very distinguished group, the Library Board, Parks and Recreation Commission, PCDC, Board of Directors, Personnel Appeal Board, Planning and Zoning, Senior Advisory Committee, and the TERS Board. If all of you would please stand very quickly so we know where you all are. I would like to emphasize that without their dedication and commitment as volunteers, we would not be the city we are today. And we appreciate their service, their time, and commitment. This afternoon, what I'd like to do is touch on 4 areas. I guess we could have had more, but 4 is enough. I think Chantel asked me how long my speech was going to be. I said, well, it was going to be a couple of hours, but I could shorten it to 30 minutes. And I'm going to do my best. Up to now, Pflugerville, or more recently, I guess, it's been a few years. Pflugerville was a very well-kept secret for a long time. Short of the 55-game winning streak back in the 50s, no one really knew where Pflugerville was. But we're off that beaten path, a path that basically rolled up the streets at 5 o'clock because I was on those streets at 5 o'clock. But no more. We have been recognized as the 3rd fastest growing city in the country, and the following program will connect the dots and define Pflugerville in a very different way. We'll be talking about engagement, finances, growth, and economic development. We've made a lot of strides within our organization, our city council, city staff, and direction of city management. Our engagement with over 67,000 population, we have had over 95,000 connections, and that figure grows exponentially every day. Social media has brought a new definition to public engagement. Just yesterday, we mailed out a new survey to get a feel for the pulse of the community. We wanted to know from our citizens what we needed to do better and get information on their customer satisfaction. And I was talking to Joe earlier from Community Impact. I'd like to especially give Community Impact kudos because apparently that's where the majority of our citizens get their information. So if you've got a mailbox, Community Impact is coming to you. We've made some strides in improving our website. As a matter of fact, we do have a chat now feature. And somebody asked me the other day, well, who's chatting with that person on the other end? I said, well, it's a real person. And they said, well, what kind of answers are they going to give the person chatting? They're going to give them real answers based on what their questions are. So if anybody's used the chat line before, I know I use it all the time to try to get some information or move whatever I'm doing forward. So it's another avenue that we have incorporated to reach out to our citizens and keeping them engaged and providing the information they need. We've recently had a graduation of our PF 101, and we're excited about that class of 22 leaders. There, and is PF 101 here? Right here. There we go. I'm sorry, I missed you guys. So we're glad to have had that participation in that particular project as they got to know about our different departments and operations within the city. We've also had partnerships with ESD2, Chamber of Commerce, PCDC, and PFISD in a joint job fair targeted to local veterans. And we recognize that the veteran population is one of our more significant and growing segments in our community, and we certainly acknowledge them. And for all the veterans here today, we certainly acknowledge and appreciate your service to our country. Upcoming on April the 13th, and this is going to be something new for Pflugerville, is Plaza Palooza. On April the 13th, the city will host Plaza Palooza to encourage a sense of community and place in our old town, downtown historic district. Now I've labeled it historic because I lived there for such a long time, so I tend to be historic. We'll have a smorgasbord of games, food, art, landscape, and fun. So we hope that you can join us. It's no surprise that over the years that the direction of our city councils, and I refer to city councils because it's been several years. I've served with a number of council members, probably in transition, at least 2 or 3 different councils that have a different makeup. And we have all worked towards the same goal, and that is to reduce property taxes. And over the last year, over the last 8 years, we have dropped our city tax rate from 0.60 to 0.4796. And I am pleasingly to report that hopefully we will continue to go that way. Time will tell. So what's contributing to our continuing to lower property taxes? A contributing factor obviously is that we've had an increase in sales tax revenue. Since 2010, our tax revenues have increased by $5.5 million. And that $5.5 million helps us address the different programs and services that we have to provide to our citizens, and helps alleviate that tax burden. So it gives us a little more leverage in what we can do. Even though every year going through the budget process, as Ms. Biehle will find this year, it's always a challenge. I think she told me yesterday that all of her departments cumulatively have asked for 45 new people. That's a lot of people. And so she's got her work cut out for her. And surprise, hotel occupancy tax. Hotels have finally come to Pflugerville. They arrived in 2016. And the reason I say finally is because, as I said, I've grown up in Pflugerville all of my life here. And I've always wondered why Hutto had a hotel and we didn't have a hotel. And so that always bothered me. And I thought, Hutto's just a little blip in the road. I'm sorry, if anybody is here from Hutto, forgive me. Yeah. On the other side of that coin, I will pick on Hutto again, although I just recently visited Hutto for a mayor's dinner with several Williamson County mayors, and they do have some really cool venues going on downtown. For a long time, Hutto didn't even have a bank. And so it kind of tells you where a community starts. I mean, even if you look at Hutto today, they're making some great progress. The hotel occupancy tax, as you can notice, we get a portion of it, and the balance of that is an investment in our conference center to promote tourism and large events such as this. It goes without saying that growth in Pflugerville, and I'll take you back to 1957, population 272. In 1980, 662, and the rest is history. We are well beyond 60,000 in a population. That's a little scary even for me when I talk to newcomers or people who don't know much about Pflugerville, and you know, I tell them, they ask me, well, how big is Pflugerville? 60,000 people, 60,000 plus, and that doesn't even include the people in our ETJ. But at build out, if you'll notice, in our city and ETJ, we will have a minimum of 275,000 residents and possibly a pinch more. And the reason I say a pinch more because over the years when we've been given numbers, especially from the finance department or planning department, they're always very conservative, so this may be a conservative number. I probably won't be here to see that, but the numbers basically speak for themselves. We've had increased percentages highlighted by the fact that we have had over 864,000 square feet of commercial and industrial construction. That's huge. It is very, very huge. Could I get a glass of water?
I'm a good city manager.
There we go. This is Serena Breland, our city manager.
And I know my place. I get them water, yes.
That wasn't in the script, but one of the areas that definitely every year as a city council, what we have to face is looking at capital improvement projects and capital improvement programs. We have the arduous task of evaluating and developing plans for the numerous CIP programs that, that we have seen over the 12 years. Over the last few years, it has been the norm to have some construction project in one or more parts of the city. I don't know if you guys drive around Pflugerville much, I do. And coming home or going somewhere or shopping or whatever, there is construction in just about every quadrant of Pflugerville. And I believe Police Chief, I think there's 4 quadrants, is that correct? I don't know where the chief is, but you'll find construction in every part of Pflugerville. It is imperative that as a city grows, that the leadership recognize that the investment of infrastructure such as roads, water lines, wastewater, etc., is imperative to keep our city safe and moving forward. And that's the first thing you learn being on the city council is that if you're going to build something, if you're going to grow something, you need to have infrastructure. You got to have a way to get there. You got to have a way to get back. You got to have a way to provide services. These investments, of course, come from our general obligation bonds, certificates of obligation, and cash reserves. Projects under construction, Weiss Lane improvements. This has been an ongoing project, initially for the opening of the Weiss High School a couple of years ago with over $13 million investment. And just recently, we started the PFENNIG Lane project, which, by the way, was on our CIP list for 10 years before we got to it. And that's a $2.2 million project. So we've been making headway slowly but surely. The HEATHERWILDE Windermere area was a subdivision or area, neighborhood area that was annexed right after I got elected back in 2006. And we finally have made some headway there in making improvements in some of the drainage systems and the streets that were overdue for that neighborhood. And finally, we just 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe it was, or maybe a month ago, we did the ribbon cutting for the PAWS, Pflugerville Animal Welfare Services Animal Intake Shelter. In 2006, you basically had a lean-to of sorts. We've made a lot of headway in terms of animal welfare services. The projects that we've completed over the last few years, we have been fortunate to receive CDBG grant funds that previously had been going to the county, and over the last 3 years we've completed the Mill Creek and Green Meadows projects. And again, these are funds that are allocated each and every year on a qualifying basis, and fortunately we've been eligible for those and have been investing in some of our older neighborhoods. Last year, we completed the elevated tower right off of Pflugerville Parkway, adding to storage and water pressure in that area. And for those, I know that most of you don't know this, in October, my wife and I bought a house east of 130 in the fairways of Black Hawk, and we moved from Old Town that we had resided in for over 25 years in our home after our children left. And actually, we didn't even tell the Lesniaks goodbye. They're our neighbors right across the street. They were here today. And, but after 2 or 3 months of living on the east side of 130, and really, when you have Costco, you don't need to go anywhere else, you know, and at least that's what my wife says. And so I was making a trip down Pflugerville Parkway one day, and I saw the tower, and well, first of all, what I saw was this light on this huge building, which I thought was a building, and actually it was a water tower, and we had finally turned the lights on that shine on the Pflugerville. And I thought, I really didn't know where I was at the moment. I thought I was in some other city, but apparently, if you leave Old Town, you might miss out on something. By the way, we use that facility also as a storage facility for some of our files, I found out, which was kind of cool. Most of you probably have been the beneficiaries of the East Pflugerville Parkway and SH 130 intersection improvements. I know I have. And also the East Pflugerville Parkway opening. And so we're making some headway in that area. There's still certainly other projects on CIP, which I'll touch on very briefly later, that will complement what I've just mentioned. One of our biggest events this last year was the opening of 1849 Park. It was one of the most notable completions of Phase 1, and it was a great day as many community members celebrated the ribbon cutting with a total of $16 million in general obligation bonds for that project. And we had a lot of folks out celebrating, running through banners, the ribbon cutting, a lot of games. It was really exciting for us to open that park, which is just part of the larger project that we have in that area. We're doing a lot in the area of parks for our neighborhoods. The Stonehill Park and Pfluger Park improvements were projects that came on last year. As a matter of fact, the dog park is adjacent to the Stonehill Park and is available to everyone of all ages and any size of PAWS that you have. On the horizon, you know, it's just the beginning. You know, my wife and I were driving back from Buda the other night, and just as it was getting dark, and you could see the lights in Pflugerville, and she said, geez, Pflugerville is big. And in that moment, I thought, no, we're just at the infancy of Pflugerville. It's just the beginning, and we have a lot of things that we can look forward to. On the horizon, we have the beginning stages of our new improved wastewater treatment plant, Phase 1, for total funding of $48 million. Let me get to that part. Well, maybe I skipped it. No, it's on there. Yeah, okay. Let's go back. In addition, in 2018, citizens approved over $21 million for road projects to help improve mobility and access. Transportation and mobility is always the center point of planning and growth. There are numerous projects that are on the drawing table. As fast as growth is happening, it is imperative that we try to keep moving forward with projects that will help our citizens get around the city safely. We had 2019-21 transportation improvement, as you see the map, and several projects there. The 2019-21 improvement projects include Colorado Sands, Kelly Lane, East Pflugerville Parkway, and on. So again, these are areas that a lot of citizens have submitted requests for, complaints about, concerns about, and when we look at the improvement projects, we also have to look at evaluating the impact, the priorities that we have in certain areas, and certainly including safety. One of our newest projects that is still in the finishing phases, if it's not already finished, is our Wilbarger Creek Park, which is in the Highland Park area, and it'll be an awesome addition to that part of town. And if you just think about it, we have been making improvements in every area of our community, whether it's east, whether it's really far east with 1849, Highland Park, and the park project there. And so I'd like to commend the Parks and Rec Department for keeping up with the utilization of our park system and making the appropriate upgrades. Where would we be without economic development? Economic development is probably one of the key factors in where we are today. I remember the days of our early EDC program that was barely treading water, but now that story has turned around. In 2013, we began the 130 Business Park, and we have $103 million investment on our tax rolls, 1,000 jobs, 56 acres yet to be developed. We have headquarters for the North American headquarters, EOS, national headquarters, Life Last Community Impact, FinSpeed, regional headquarters, Ruin Environmental, MW Builders, Cortec, Precision Marketing, Flooring Services, regional FedEx, local HQ, Phenology, PCDC, and we have commercial properties, Best Western, Courtyard, Marriott, and Platinum Gymnastics. In 2013, the Pflugerville Community Development Corporation began construction of the first industrial properties to go vertical and newly constructed on the newly constructed 130 Toll Road. With the help of the city of Pflugerville, the 130 Business Park became a reality. Today, the 167-acre business park has resulted in attracting 12 headquarters, one of which is the first North American headquarters. While we note $103 million on the tax rolls, as I mentioned, with 1,000 jobs, the park has yet another 56 acres remaining to be developed. And I think Amy's comment on here was, stay tuned, more to come. 3D manufacturing is the fastest growing segment in advanced manufacturing today and was first recruited in Pflugerville in 2013 with the help from PCDC and City, EOS of North America, and Essentium arrived to provide synergy. Pflugerville is now known as the 3D City. Why is that important? These companies in Pflugerville serve a broad portfolio of industries including aerospace, biomedical, defense, automotive, commercial, and will continue to produce investment in equipment and create high-paying jobs. And let me address that just briefly, because that's one of the things that we have strived on this city council and previous city councils is growth and development is good. We have a lot of retail, which is great, but what we really want is jobs for our citizens in our community so we don't have to commute an hour or two or be in I-35 traffic, and we are getting there. We are bringing companies to the city of Pflugerville where that opportunity is beginning to exist. And I refer, this is not on this particular slide, but we've had other opportunities such as Baylor Scott & White, which is bringing opportunities to the city as well for employment. Typhoon Texas. This is a great turnaround story for a community wanting good, clean, fun, and we finally got it in 2017. Typhoon arrived to begin the makeover, and in 2018 had a blockbuster year, shattering attendance records and rankings in social media. In 2019, they're bringing new upgrades and valet parking to get you to the big splash even sooner. In 2020, PCDC and Typhoon are bringing new access to the park from FM 685 and a year-round restaurant and new entertainment options. I've always been impressed with Typhoon Texas. I've never been there where their food is not excellent. And they got a great chef over there. They also have a great chef here too. In FY18 and FY19, the city and PCDC assisted 12 companies and organizations. Our most recent project, announced last week, was yet another regional headquarters of the Rosendin Electric, an electric construction company, bringing 84 jobs with an average wage of $75,000. Looking to the future, I guess if you had a crystal ball, you might be surprised what you would see. And I guess you really can't operate and plan for a city with a crystal ball. You have to have leadership, you have to have vision, you have to have the ability to think what I call not in the box, but beyond the box. As we begin the next season of growth for Pflugerville, there are several projects that have gotten off quick, as well as projects that are in what I call the visionary state. Our first project is the Pecan District, which has already begun construction on 1825, or Pecan Street. And that project took over 10 years to get launched. It was through the determination and persistency of the property owner and developers to continually bring something back to this city that we felt would work for them as well as for us in our community. It'll be a mixed-use development on the west side of the city, on West Pecan Street, and will bring a new balance and resiliency to West Pflugerville. Northpointe, again, this is a conceptual project which will be a new and vibrant project similar to the Domain or Triangle, which will offer mixed use and amenity features contributing to the domino effect along 130, which is already happening, by the way. Along our major tollways, we can anticipate future occupancy of commercial and corporate businesses that include the Springbrook Corporate Center as a 28-acre development delivering approximately 358,000 plus square feet of Class A industrial product on the frontage road of SH45 and Heatherwild Boulevard. And you might say we took that adage, build it and they will come, to heart. We will see. Lake Pflugerville Master Plan, again, part of the planning process that we've been involved in for a while. Based on the 2014 Lake Pflugerville Master Plan, these concepts show planned improvements to Lake Pflugerville Park, increasing parking, upgrades, beach area with additional restrooms, shade, and where we are defining top priorities and we'll be addressing those very quickly. The first phase of construction on the Lake Pflugerville Master Plan is expected to be in place in 2020 to 2021. Phase 2 of our 1849 park includes baseball, softball fields, a playground, restroom concession, and additional parking for the complex. And I would just like to mention that, as having been part of the initial process with this, is that taking a 365-acre park and building it out in phases, you have to have a little patience. It happens. Phase one, we had some uphill challenges with that, but we're able to meet that with certificates or with the general obligation bonds that the voters passed to do that. And so, again, the big challenge for us as a council, as well as our city staff, is funding these projects. So that will be something that we'll be addressing very soon. Thinking beyond the box. A discussion was recently had about a multipurpose rec center, perhaps a senior center. It's pretty much on the dream radar as a multipurpose senior center, Natatorium, taking Pflugerville to the next frontier. And when I first heard the word Natatorium, I really wasn't quite sure, and I'm a University of Texas graduate, you know. And but I've since learned a few things about that, and it's a really exciting concept. And then finally, bringing City Hall home. I recently mentioned that there was a new synergy on council to bring a new chapter to Old Town Pflugerville with revitalizing the entertainment district as it's becoming to emerge more and more, and a new city hall. This is still in the early stages, and we're going to review it very carefully. So a lot of exciting things happening. I want to thank you for your time and patience, and ask that you continue to support Pflugerville's future as we all partner together to make Pflugerville the best place to live, work, and play. Thank you for a great day. Live long and prosper.